Welcome to part 4 of a coding walkthrough for learning the Django web application. We are at part 4 of the tutorial, as you can see. And part 3, we went through how to make views that you make use of templates, like the one use HTML templates to be more specific. And part 4, I believe, is going to do some forms where users can input some data into the application. So let's get started. So last time we had, looks like we're going to be working on this detail view a little bit more, which currently looks like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to update this detail view template. Let me go open that up. There it is. So currently it looks like this, but we're going to change it to use a form element. And looks like this is quite a big change. Looks like we're basically starting over. So let me go ahead and delete all of this code. And this form code is slightly hard to read at the moment. So I might actually decrease the font size by a little bit so the code lines up a little bit better on my screen. Maybe like this. Okay, let's go for it. So we're gonna start with a form element like so, and there's some CSRF token stuff which is for security purposes. It will prevent cross-site request forgery, which is what CSRF stands for, which is a very, very common attack on web applications. And so it's good to see. I think nowadays most web frameworks have some sort of built-in mechanism to prevent CSRF, and Django is no exception. Okay, so we have this action. Maybe I'll make this text a little smaller as well. Okay, so I used the double quotes on the outside. I think I need to use single quotes on the inside to be more sane. And the method is post. We're going to use a post method for this form. So when the user submits this form, it's going to make another request to the Django server. We put the CSRF token here. I'm not going to go into the details about how cross-site request forgery works. However, I do strongly suggest you learn about it in the event that you don't already know how all that works. Okay, so we're gonna have a field set, which I think a field set just looks like a box, like that. I think that's what a field set is. Whoops, sorry. A field set kind of looks like this, I believe, with a little title. And then you're gonna have your fields. Field 1, blah, field 2, blah. And outside of the field set, we have a submit input, which just says vote. So this is more or less the form that we're making. So the form consists of this whole thing. Yeah, so I think we're making something like this, more or less. Okay, and we actually are gonna have a H1 title here. Oh, that's the legend. Okay. I'm gonna kind of do my own thing when it comes to indentation because I don't have a lot of horizontal space on my screen right now. And the text that goes into the H1 title is the question text, and then that's the legend. So the legend is this H1. Maybe I don't quite need to make it multiple lines. I can maybe go with that. And then we have this if statement that conditionally renders an error message. So an error message would be rendered like this. And this looks like a separate error message variable. Maybe to multi-line this guy. So this would be error message would be passed in as a context later on. So like here, this guy is the context. We're going to need to at some point add in an error message here. I bet. I'll write to do here, but this is going to make an error of some sort, and that allows an error message to be defined here in the context of the template. But this is conditional, so we're going to add an if statement here. I'm just doing the same thing as they do. I just do it out of order so that I can explain things in the order that I want to explain them. So okay, so this error message is rendered conditionally depending on if an error message was supplied. And then we're gonna loop through the choice set like we had done previously, although I have deleted all of that code now, but it doesn't hurt to write it again. It never hurts to redo the same thing over again. Okay. And then, so for each choice would be like choice A, B, C, D, and each one the user can select it. So we're gonna use a radio button to allow them to select it. I'm gonna multi-line this so we can see everything on the screen. And okay, so this is interesting. There's a loop counter construct that's being used here. For loop dot counter. So I would imagine that would be just counting starting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. There's a for loop, and that gets we can use that using this double bracket notation, and this ID will end up being choice 0, choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, and so forth. We can test that later to verify what I just said, but I think that's what's going on. And then we put the database ID of the choice object in as the value. And then we're gonna have a label. And then in the label, so this for attribute of the label associates this label with the input by the ID of the input. So this for field, the fact that it matches the ID of this input associates the label with his input. I think one of the effects of that is when the user clicks on this label, it will also cause the browser to make it be like as if the user clicked on this radio button here, among other things. It also helps with the accessibility aspect of like when a user uses a screen reader, for example. Okay, and then we have a break, and then we have an end for. Oh, I already put in the end for. Okay, and we have the end of the field set. Okay, and then after the end of the field set, we're gonna put in this submit input, and then whose value is gonna be vote. Okay, so that's our form. We will probably need to update the view, which is here, in order to get this form to render correctly. And we'll need to put in the error message among other things. A quick rundown. The name of each radio button is choice. Yeah, so name here, we're talking about here, name of every single radio button is the same, is choice, which allows them to group together. It causes it so that when you like you have radio button like choice 1, choice 2, well, okay, let's say only one of them are supposed to be selected at a time, and currently we have choice 1 selected. Having all of them have the same name, so all three of these radio buttons have the same name, which is choice, tells the browser that they're within the same group. So when you select 2, for example, and therefore unselect 1, it'll know that to unselect 1 because all these three are in the same group, and therefore only one of them are supposed to be selected at any one given time. So that's why we make all of them have the same name attribute. The form's action is where we specify what URL the browser should go in the event that the user submits this form, clicks this vote button. And what they're doing is adding a vote for the particular choice that they have chosen, and that will end up being sent to the polls vote URL, which I think is supposed to be this function down here, which we haven't implemented yet, but when we do, we're going to make it actually save the choice save the vote in the database. This for loop counter indicates how many times the for tag has gone through its loop, so it'll go once for each choice that's associated with the question. Let's go ahead and go to the next part. Alright, so we also created a dummy implementation of the vote function. Let's create a real version. So they're talking about, you know what, before we create the real version, so this is exactly what I was talking about. So when you submit this form, it'll hit this URL, which will end up hitting this vote function. Currently it doesn't do anything. And they're saying the next step is write all of this code to make it actually save to the database. Before I do that, I actually want to render this form and see if that's been written correctly. Clearly no. The error message to do is undefined. Did they have code to put that in? No, not yet. So we're kind of not ready to do that yet. Whoa, what are these? Amend views. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one for now. I kind of want to, before I start changing these views, okay, let me just undo this change that I made so that this can actually render. Wait for the server. Oh, there we go. There's our form. Awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to test that this code actually did something. It looks kind of nasty. It doesn't look great. The spacing, like this border is sticks to this button, which looks awful. And there's like way too much spacing up here versus down here, so the whole thing just looks awful. But we're not gonna worry about that. I don't think that's the point of the tutorial. I'm going to select fried chicken and click on vote, and what that did is it took us to the polls/to/vote URL, which was specified over here, and that brings us to the views.vote function, which is this guy, and which is why we're seeing you're voting on question 2. But in reality, we should make this actually do something in the database, namely record a vote, and it's just spitting out some text saying you're voting. Okay, so that's what we're doing in the next step. Let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we want to do is grab the question that is in question. That is associated with the passed in question ID, which ultimately comes from the URL over here. In this case, it would be 2. But we don't know what it actually is, so we're going to fetch it. We're going to use this get object or 404 function, which came from this Django.shortcuts module. We covered that in the last part of the tutorial. And we're going to pass in the model class and then the primary key, the PK. Okay, I'm going to multi-line this so that we can, I'm actually going to kind of collapse the other methods so that we're focused then on this vote function here. Okay, so step 1, we are getting the question based on this question ID, and then we're gonna do a try catch thing. I see. We're gonna use the choice set to grab the choice object that the user has selected. Are we using a post method? Yes, we are. Okay. So we can ask the request for parameters or post parameters more specifically using this syntax. Evidently post is like a dictionary that contains all of the values that were sent in from the form, that were posted in. So each input here has a name, and the name of the input is the key by which the values are stored. So your input's name is choice. It comes in as the key choice within this post dictionary. Okay, so we're gonna try to fetch the choice by this choice's ID, I believe. But if that didn't work, we're gonna do some error handling. Evidently, is this? I think this except with the 2 things in a tuple. That means except if it's either of these types, then we're gonna. This is like a multi-match, I believe. Then we're gonna render using the shortcut render function from over here that we covered in a previous video to render this detail.html template. And here we supply the error message. You didn't select a choice. Interesting. Okay. Trailing commas. A lot of people like using trailing commas. I have not gotten in the habit of using them. I don't mind it, I guess. I will do it like that. Else. You can have an else as part of a try except statement. Oh, this would be like else would be there was an error, but it's not one of these two errors. Is that true or no? Or else it means it did not have an error, probably. Or it did not have one of these two errors. Even if it's a different error, it's still fine, I guess? Is that what it means? I might need to read about this. Python try except else. Execute if no exception. I see. Else means there was no exception at all. Okay, that's fine. I would have put this code under this line in that case. That's just what I am used to. But this is the first time I have seen the else construct used with the try except. So yeah, I would have just put these two lines in here, but I will follow the suggested way. Okay, so now we're actually gonna redirect. Yeah, this is a very common pattern when somebody submits a form. Instead of rendering something directly, we redirect it to a different page, which in turn displays the results. So let's do that. So we're gonna redirect. What is this reverse thing? Does that mean reverse lookup? Alright. The word reverse is kind of curious. Args equals question.id, comma. So this trailing comma is necessary to make Python interpret this thing as a tuple. If you didn't have this comma, then it would be as if there were no parentheses at all. So if you want to wrap the question ID within a tuple that contains one thing in it, you have to do this trailing comma. Alright. I want to read about what this reverse thing is. We're using the reverse function in the HTTP response redirect constructor in this example. This function helps avoid having to hardcode a URL in the view function. It is given the name of the view that we want to pass control to and the variable portion. Where does this reverse function come from? It comes from the Django URLs. Okay, so reverse is a URL utility. I still think the word reverse is slightly, what's the word? Jarring? Because it makes me think of reversing a list or something. But that's okay. As long as you know what it is. So the reverse call will produce a URL like this. Okay, that's fine. And then what are we doing here? After somebody votes in a question, the vote view redirects to the results page, which would be this one. And the results page, we're gonna write that view now. But let me test what we have done before changing yet another view, okay? Slow down here. All right, so I'm gonna go lasagna. Okay, that didn't work. There's a syntax error. 49. Did I forget to close something? Forgot to close this parentheses that was opened here for the call of the reverse function. So let me try to fix that. Okay, I think we fixed. Yes, I want to resubmit the form that I previously had. HTTP response redirect was not defined, so I forgot to import that guy. It should come from the same place as HTTP response, is my guess. Okay, refresh and I can resubmit the form. You're looking at the results of the question 2, but what I want to see is actually the change in the database, because we have upped the votes of the selected choice, and that should be seen. I don't know which. Let's just go to the database. Which I can do by using my DB browser for SQLite. There. I'm going to open up that database, which I showed how to do, I think, in part 2. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the choice table, and I see that lasagna has 2 votes, so that must have been our doing in submitting the form. So yeah, if I vote for lasagna one more time, then this number should get bumped up to 3. Now if I go back and I vote for fried chicken, then fried chicken should get bumped up. Yeah, and it did. Very good. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to continue on and implement this results view function. I'm going to collapse this vote function now, and I'm going to focus on this results function. So what we're going to do is, again, query for the question with that question ID. It really is the same line as here and here. They're all the same line. So I might even do a copy and paste there. And we're going to call the render. Just simply call the render from the shortcuts. And render takes a request. The path to the template, which in this case is result, and it takes a context dictionary which contains the variables that we're going to pass to the template. Do we have this results template? No. So is it results plural? Yeah. So I bet we're gonna create that template next. Yeah, and there it is. All right, let's create this results HTML template, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy what they have on there. Okay, there's a header that should render the text of the question, and then there's an unordered list, and then we're going to use a little for loop again. Again, we're using the choice set to loop through all of the choices that are associated with this question. And for each of them, we're going to make a list item Li. And first, we're gonna show the text for that choice, and then we're gonna do dash dash, and then we're gonna show how many votes were cast for that choice, and then I'm gonna show vote. Oh, there's this pluralize. Okay. Interesting. Is it gonna say S or no S, basically? Yeah, this probably will put on an S or not, depending on whether there's one choice, one vote or more. And then there's a link to allow the user to go to the vote page again, which seems odd, because why would you repeatedly vote? Okay, some types of questions can allow you to repeatedly vote, but I imagine you just select multiple of the choices and vote once in that case. So I find this design choice odd. Okay, in any case, there it is. Let's try it. Okay, nice. Fried chicken 1 vote, lasagna 3 votes, and if I go back to the vote page, vote for fried chicken again. Now it redirects me back to this page and shows me the updated tally. Okay. Note, the code for our vote view does have a problem. What's the problem? Tell me what's the problem. This vote. He's saying this function has a problem. It first gets the selected choice object from the database, then computes the new value of vote, and then saves it back to the database. If two users, there's a race condition. Yeah, two users of your website try to vote exactly at the same time, it might go wrong, as in one of the users' votes will not get counted. If you're interested, you can read about avoiding race conditions using F to learn how you can solve this issue. Okay, interesting. I'm not going to go down that route, but I might in the future. Using generic views, less code is better. Okay, the detail function from tutorial 3, would that be this function here? Probably. And the result views are very short and, as mentioned above, redundant. The index view here, which displays a list of polls, is similar. These views represent a common case of basic web development, getting data from the database according to a parameter pass into the URL, loading a template, and returning the rendered template. Because this is so common, Django, I'm reading this paragraph, by the way. Because this is so common, Django provides a shortcut called the generic views system. Generic views abstract common patterns to the point where you don't even need to write Python code to write an app. Let's convert our poll app to use the generic views system so that we can delete a bunch of our code. Okay, I'm actually going to pause there because I need to run to pick up my daughter from school. So I'm gonna pause this here and continue on in the next video.